In London, around 100,000 have marched most Saturdays, mainly young, many from the UK's Muslim community and from the political left.
We can only hope. We just have to keep going until they do. There's power in people. There's so many people here, and we just have to keep going until they do listen.
It's a bloodshed, and the Israelis are targeting hospitals, schools, and we can't stand by and just watch this.
It's been the same story in Berlin and Paris and elsewhere. There have been isolated arrests for outright support of Hamas, but the demonstrations have still continued. Meanwhile, there's been a sharp rise in both anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents across Europe, leaving Jewish and some Muslim communities feeling increasingly threatened. In the immediate aftermath of Hamas's attack on October the 7th, European governments rushed to support Israel's right to defend itself, while expressing concern over regional escalation. And despite the street protests, that hasn't changed. But as the Palestinian civilian death toll rises, Europe's governments have increased their calls for a pause or ceasefire to allow for greater humanitarian aid. The EU is now the biggest donor to the Palestinians, and this week announced another increase of $27 million. But concern for the Palestinians is still tempered by support for Israel's ambition to destroy Hamas.
All of us, as democracies and as human beings, have a responsibility to do everything possible to protect civilians who are caught in harm's way. So while Israel has the right to fight Hamas, it is also essential that it strives to avoid civilian casualties and to be as targeted as possible. Because every human life matters, be it Israeli or Palestinian.
The crisis in the Middle East is creating real political tensions in Europe. Governments of all political complexions are struggling to steer a path between historic support for Israel and rising domestic anger at the price being paid by Palestinian civilians.